Okay, so hello, I'm Chris, and this is going to be my how to do bodywork on a bad part. So I have another video on here of this part where we were trying to save it, trying to figure out whether it's better to just buy a new one or trying to save your original. And I actually saved it in the video. Now we're going to attempt to do bodywork on it. Now this is all beat to hell. We're going to end up floating the whole thing. We have it in epoxy primer, both sides. First thing we want to do is we're going to spray a guide coat on it. Whenever you're first doing this on a long piece like that, you need to use a hard block with 80 grit. You want to go ahead and knock your high spots out as you go. We're just trying to even this all out before we put our Bondo on there. And that's why we cleaned this inside up too, because we're going to sand this and look for high spots here too. You're just so the guide coat's gonna identify all the low places. And this is the good side. We got that side out. Now we have just all this screwed up. Now we have to make that side look like that side. Now the reason I decided to save this one is because if you notice here, it still has some of the curve and it has some of the curve. Our block, or even if we had to use a bigger block, we can clearly get that done. Now if this was hit all the way down here, it wouldn't work. See, we have enough meat left here and enough meat left here where we're going to be able to figure that out. So that's kind of the point in any panel, that if you don't have enough of that meat left over to reshape, you're just going to have to buy a new panel. Always start with the edges. Okay, so you kind of get the point of that, how the guide coat shows the low places. We got them out right here, and we got most of them out. But this is completely normal for it to look like that. We're gonna float the whole thing with Bondo now. Okay, so you always want to get as much of that guide coat off as you can. Okay, it's always good to mark your limits. There's no reason to put filler over here, you just waste your time. We're going to do it in 2 sections. You always need to look in your body filler and stir this stuff up if you haven't used it in a long time. This stuff has to be mixed right. Okay, always mix your filler right. We have the surface cleaned, abraded or scuffed. Everything is 100% ready to go. Wax and grease remove it if you have to. Now, if you're trying to learn how to do body work and you hear people say that Bondo sucks, that's a dead giveaway that that person has no idea how to do body work. I'm going to leave it at that. The best advice when using Bondo is you want to mix way more than you're going to need, and you want to hit this with one pass. One pass of Bondo, and then we'll go to our polyester putty. You hurt yourself so bad with that second pass of Bondo. Alright, mix your hardener up real freaking good. Okay, so whenever you're mixing Bondo, you don't want to do this in direct sunlight, and you don't want a fan blowing on you. If you got that panel heated up and you put Bondo on there, it's gonna dry too fast, screw everything up. Something like that. Okay, so we got our panel floated. We put a lot on there. We're gonna file it all off, but this one actually had some factory low places in here, but we're just gonna have to do away with them because there's just so much damage that we're gonna have to refloat that whole thing. Okay, so I got 36 on the air file. The thing with the air file is, it's just like any other power tool. You got to know when to stop. Any power tool, the problem with them is that you could go too far and just screw everything up. So we're going to knock this down till we get it real close, and then we're going to block it with a long block and 80 grit. So just watch me how I kind of block this down without going too far. The higher the cost of the body filler, the sooner you can hit this with a sander. If you're using $30 plastic filler, you never want to hit this before it dries. Some people like to take a file and hit it right before it hardens. If you're using Rage Gold or Rage, you could probably get away with that, but on this $30 a gallon stuff, you absolutely never want to hit this before it dries. Okay, it's hard to see, but all I did was just kind of feather it into that a little bit, and then we kind of got an idea where our peak is. Now, that's the problem with the air file is it's not gonna shape anything for you, but it did cut it down. Now we're gonna hit it with a block with 80 and try to square this out. It's fresh 80 on a pretty big block. We got it all cut pretty rough, so it's been cut down with the air file and then kind of blocked with 80. See our two indentions, we had to go back down a little further. That's the problem with the cheaper fillers, is they like to leave little pinholes and you got to grind those out. Now we got our bodywork blocked pretty good. Now we're going to put the metal glaze putty on it. Now this stuff likes to dry real fast, so be careful. When we had the plastic filler on there blocked, I went over it with a glazing putty, blocked it out with 80. Now we're going to put 3 to 4 coats of primer. Okay, we got 4 coats of primer on it and a guide coat. We're probably going to have to do this twice since this was just in such bad shape. And right now we're going to try to block it with 80 and see what we're working with. So you kind of get the idea of the way we're block sanding it, just like in my other bodywork videos. Just a diagonal pattern, trying to get out any low places as we block. Okay, so we got it all blocked out. It came out good. The only low places were little tiny ones. We're gonna fill these. You have your glazing putty and your 1K glazing putty. We're going to use the 2K. This stuff actually dries faster too and better, so we're going to use the 2K glazing putty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sand these out. So we got all the polyester sanded, blocked out. Okay, so I'll show you everything because I want you to see how many steps it's actually taken me to perfect this piece. This isn't a freaking smoke and mirrors video. I'm trying to show you what I go through to get these panels like this. So all the polyester sanded down, blocked. Now we're going to put the primer on it. I'm going to put 3 or 4 more coats. Okay, so you just kind of want to feather it on over the bodywork. You don't want to just blast it over the polyester. It's not going to do anything in this situation, but sometimes you can get some weird little reactions going on there. Alright, got it in primer. Ready to do the final sanding. See how we put it on there thinner, and the surfacer actually dried a little glossy. But we're going to hit it with 180 real light to just check and make sure that everything's good. Hit it with a smaller block, and then we're going to go to, I ran out of 400, so we're going to go ahead and block it with 320 on with a little block and do our sealer test. Just real light. See, we're blocking it out and we're kind of making sure it's all even, but we still have tiny low places. So we just want to get it like that with 180, very light. And then we're going to block the rest out with 320 and 400. Okay, so we got the piece ready, sanded with 320. And I hope you understand that this is not the official job. I mean, we still got to go back and clean everything, all the edges. We're just trying to make sure our panel is perfect before we move on to the next step. Last thing you want to do is get a panel ready and find out that it's completely distorted. So we're just using black sealer. We're going to test our bodywork, see if we can go to the next step with this panel. It's almost dried. It's flattening out. So let's check it out. Now look at this side. This was the worst side. Okay. Alright, well there you go. That's how you fix a badly damaged piece. You just float the whole thing, block it out, It's the same for every panel. Anyway, there you go. If you liked the video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.